We are here at the Framework event, seeing multiple laptops, the Framework Laptop 12, the Framework Laptop 13, and something entirely new, the Framework Desktop. So the star of the show at the Framework press conference is obviously the Framework Desktop. Now, Framework has been making laptops for about 5 years now, and they've made them in a sort of a modular approach. They've been modular, upgradable, serviceable, so you can just swap out a main board and replace it with something new. You can swap out I/O. But now they have what's essentially a desktop PC, which is itself modular, upgradable, and so forth. So how are they actually going to do it to go ahead and give that Framework experience to the PC? So let's take a look. So inside this is the Ryzen AI Max processor, which is this fundamentally cool sort of hybrid AI graphics processor. AMD launched it at CES, and we really haven't seen it inside of a desktop PC until now. We've seen it in a couple of mentions from HP and so forth. So it is a 4.5 liter box. It has these removable panels on the front of it, and this allows you to customize it. So right now you've got this magnetically attached front panel. These all are called tiles. They can be replaced with something a little bit more colorful. You can replace them with logos. It's basically your laptop sticker on the desktop. You can notice that there's a front panel here. This is not necessarily fleshed out, but supposedly you can go ahead, oh, here we go. You notice that we have a USB-A port and a USB-C port here. These can be replaced and upgraded, so if you don't want to get rid of USB-A, for example, you can replace it with a USB-C port. The other options are these two side panels. We have one that's essentially translucent. You can see right into the interior of the case. We've got one on the other side, which is completely opaque. It's a hard shell. Normally, we get access to these by a couple of thumb screws, which we've already removed, but we can go ahead and slide this out. Again, sort of magnetically pops off. You can go ahead and pull off the side panels here, which gives you access to the internals of the machine. One nice feature is if you want to go ahead and take this to a LAN party, you can go ahead and add a handle to the top of the case. Again, you can sort of tweak this to a little bit to give it a little bit of personality. So again, what we have here inside here is what we know as the traditional main board. This is something that, again, Framework has put inside of its laptops. Inside here we have the main board, which we're not going to remove right now because they basically encouraged us not to, but you can see a little bit of the interior here. This is a single 120 millimeter fan. There's a couple of fan options. There's two fans from Cooler Master that you can choose from. There's also a fan from Noctua. There's no water cooling or anything of that sort here. This is all an air-cooled device, which is interesting in the fact that, first of all, there's enough power and cooling here to give the Ryzen AI processor its full 120 watts of power, even up to the boost power of 140 watts there as well. The full range of AI Max solutions are also supported here too. We have a 6-core device all the way up to the 395, which is a 16-core device here as well. The main board actually is a strictly mini ITX form factor, so if you want to actually remove it and put it in your own case, you certainly can. There's ATX headers as well. One of the things that Framework tried to do was conform to all the existing PC standards. So if you wanted to go ahead and make some changes, you certainly could. So what you'll see here is, of course, you have access to the storage right here. That's a PCIe 4.0 device. Again, it kind of the storage is actually configurable. You can go ahead and either bring your own or ask Framework to design it for you. You've got the various other parts of the main board here as well. I think that one of the things that is interesting about this particular device is that, again, it's being pitched as both sort of a gaming box and an AI box. There's a massive amount of memory bandwidth. I think it's 256 gigabytes per second. that should allow you access to some of the more advanced framework models. There's even an option to go ahead and connect these via cabling, or even pull out the main boards themselves into a rack to run more powerful models such as the DeepSeek AI model you hear a lot about. So inside here you have the option of going up to 16 terabytes of memory. RAM is a little bit of an interesting concession, I guess is the word you would look for. Again, Framework made every effort to make this as modular as it could. However, it worked with AMD and it simply couldn't get to a point where it could go ahead and design a discrete memory slot. So the memory is actually soldered down to the main board, which is something that you might not see in other devices, but you are going to see here. The memory, though, is quite hefty. You've got everything from 32 gigs of soldered memory on the 385 configuration up to 128 gigs of memory. That's a ton on the AI Max plus 395. So, not much else to talk about here. Because this is an AMD device, you've got USB 4 on the back here. You've got your HDMI slot, a couple of USB 4 slots here, USB Type A. USB Type A here. That's a couple of display ports there. Multiple gigabit Ethernet here. That again is configurable as well. Of course, you've got your 3.5 millimeter jack, power cabling, and so forth. I think this is not necessarily adjustable. This comes with the main board, but again, there's some flexibility there, as well as you can obviously have a separate USB 4 hub or dock if you want to add more flexibility as well. The one other thing that this device does not allow you the room for, basically, is it's got a by-4 PCIe connection in there, not the by-16, which again would allow you to run a discrete GPU. The argument here, of course, is that you don't need it. AMD showed off the fact that you can run games, Cyberpunk, 1080p, 1440p at close to 800 frames per second. So the odds are you might not need it, but again, this is not an option at this point in time. The question I have, and the one we haven't been able to answer to Framework, is basically the Framework laptops have been foundations for future updates and revisions in the future. It looks like if this is the case for the future as well, it will be integrated GPUs only, because it really just doesn't quite allow well, maybe it will, but it doesn't look like it's going to quite allow the room for a discrete GPU card. Again, though, possibility, of course, that we could see a larger Framework desktop in the future. We've obviously seen multiple sizes of the laptops. So what is it all going to cost you? Not too much, but not too little either. Pricing will range from $1,099 on the low end up to $1,999 on the high end. You can pre-order it today, but it'll ship in the third quarter of this year. So Framework also had sort of a one more thing moment, and this is it, the Framework Laptop 12. Now, you're familiar with the Framework Laptop 13. It's been their device for they offered it for 5 generations now, several devices, several iterations. This is a slightly smaller, cheaper device, and the idea is that most people have to deal with, at some point in their lives, sort of what they call a crap book. You know, it's a very low-end laptop, cheap, it's hard to use, it's clunky, nobody really likes using it. What Framework's trying to do is actually redefine this particular device, and it's come up with the Laptop 12, which, to be fair, it's not revealing the price of, which, you know, makes a big deal, but at least we can look at what it is and sort of just talk about what it can do. So, the actual specs are pretty good. So this is a 1200p display. It's a touchscreen. This actually is a device which, unlike the other Framework laptops, is a what you might call a 2-in-1, a 360-degree convertible. Flips back in itself, basically, right? So this particular device is being marketed at, well, everyone, but with sort of a special eye towards high schoolers and kids. So again, that's why you see the sort of the flip screen. This will ship with a stylus, which we don't have here. This is not the stylus. This is the spudger as well as the screwdriver, which you can use to actually get into it. It will ship in a DIY and a pre-built option. DIY means you can go ahead and adjust it yourself, change the configuration, bring your own operating system if you want. Pre-built, of course, just means they do it all for you. Typically, the DIY costs a little bit less. The pre-built, because you're paying for them, costs a little bit more. Again, we don't know the price of these things. The one nice thing about this is, it's aesthetic appeal. Framework's going to ship this in a number of colorways. I believe the total is 6. This is a sort of a nice sage green approach. It's designed with TPU over ABS plastic, which is a fancy way of saying that it's got some internal structural rigidity to it. There's really not a whole lot of keyboard flex on this at all, but it's designed to be sort of tough on the outside. Framework does say that if this gets damaged in some way, you'll be able to, or they'll be able to easily repair it. I'm not really sure how that will happen, but again, that's what they promise right now. So again, Framework's sort of reason of being is because these are upgradable modular devices. We're not going to try to get into it right now, but you can see some of the external ports. These are all configurable. There we go. There's a little retaining switch here, which holds it in, so we can go ahead and return it. This allows you access to this, for example, is a USB-C, potentially USB 4. You can go ahead and swap these out with USB-A or Ethernet or some other configurable module as well. You'll of course see we've got a power switch on the side. This is a key lock. Again, this is being marketed to students. One of the things students want is they don't want their laptops to go walking off, so you're going to see this key lock. Venting on the side, nothing pulling from the bottom unlike other laptops, but again, air, I'm assuming air in here, air out here, one of the two. Again, the nice thing is that 4 of these ports here. There's no real reason why you can't go ahead and configure these to put USB or C or, on either side of these, which is something that most laptops don't offer. We haven't talked about what's inside of this here. This is actually a 13th generation Intel Core, which was the processor that Framework was offering on its laptops 2 years ago. So, obviously not a powerful gaming model, but again, something that has migrated from sort of the mainstream laptop 13 into the lower end laptop 12. And honestly, with the power options or sort of the performance options that the 13th Gen Core offered, you're really not getting a bad processor for the price. Again, we don't know what that price is. So you can see there's some aspects of it that you may or may not like. The bezel's pretty chunky here. You're getting that Framework logo up here. Of course, this is Windows 11. Linux is an option, but you'll have to sort of ask for that. Let's see, inside of this, we've got an M.2 2230 slot. So it'll give you about 2 terabytes of SSD storage. They're telling us that this has up to 48 gigabytes of DDR5 memory inside of it. Unlike the Framework desktop, which we talked about earlier or later in this video, depending upon how it's edited, the memory is not soldered. So it's adjustable. If you want to add or subtract from it, you certainly can. Again, the key issue is price. We don't have that. We will know that a little bit later, but you can start pre-ordering this in April, which is a couple of months from now as we shoot, and the device will ship in mid-2025. So the bread and butter of Framework's laptop lineup is the Laptop 13 seen here, and what Framework has added for this generation is support for AMD's Ryzen AI 300 processor. Now, this is Framework's second Ryzen laptop upgrade. We saw a year ago, we saw them add the Ryzen 7040 series to this particular laptop, and so this is sort of building upon that. It's important to mention, of course, is that these are all modular. So going back to Framework's first laptop, which is an 11th Gen Core processor, you can upgrade that all the way up to the Ryzen AI 300 processor. So, as far as new additions are concerned, there's not a whole lot that's been changed aside from the processor itself. Now, I have to say that The AI 300 is a superb chip. I tested it myself, and it really offers the combination of long battery life, maybe not as much as, say, a Snapdragon processor, but excellent performance as well. Depending upon how you play with it, you can play some discrete games with, or you can play some games with it. It doesn't quite offer the performance of a discrete processor, but you know, it gets pretty close. So, what are we looking at here? So, the hardware design essentially remains the same. Again, this is a 13-inch device. The display is 2880 by 1920, 120 hertz. There are a couple of things that have been sort of tweaked for this particular generation. The keyboard, for example, it's one of the things you're going to use the most. It's still a 1.5 millimeter key travel, which honestly is pretty good as far as the industry is concerned. 1.25 is sort of the standard, and you'll notice it. But 1.5 key travel has been sort of upgraded, so the keys feel perhaps a little bit springier. Supposedly, some of the bigger keys, like the shift key, have been tweaked and widened a little bit. I don't really know if that's going to be noticeable, even for somebody who has this before. Inside, there have been a couple of changes as well. We're not going to open this up, but of course, this of course is a modular laptop, so there are screws here, which you can get at the main board inside of this. The main board being, of course, the guts of this. You can go ahead and hot swap it with something else, and you can go ahead and use the main board separately. You can even sell it separately as well. The air with this generation is pulled in through this grill work here at the bottom and is pushed out, sometimes on other laptops through the back, but you can see some, whoops. There's a little bit, and it's probably hard to see. There's some venting here, so it'll cool this down. Inside the Framework Laptop 13, Framework's added a new 10 millimeter heat pipe and swapped sort of the phase change material with the latest from Honeywell. I'm not going to give you the specs right here, but you know, Framework swears by it, so let's assume, of course, that I can do the job. Of course, the Framework sort of reason for being is these swappable ports here. Unlike the Laptop 12, this has a little bit more of a sophisticated layout. So you've got a button here, hook your fingernail into this, boom, Ethernet swaps out. You can see that it's basically USB-C, which I assume to be USB 4 there, and you can go ahead and replace these modules with pretty much anything you want. One of the nice things about it, of course, is that these can be, again, replaced with anything you want. So one of the things that people tend to hate about traditional x86 laptops is that USB 4 or Thunderbolt's only on one side of the device. Well, you can go ahead and swap and rotate it. This is HDMI. You've got another USB-C port here, built-in headphone jack. So all those things allows you the configurability and the flexibility that Framework's become known for. Let's see. So as far as the specs are concerned, these will be made in both pre-built and DIY models. So DIY offers you the option of configuring it the way you want. You can even bring your own memory or storage if you want. In this, there is DDR5 5600 up to 96 gigabytes, and there's an M.2 2280 slot, so you know you can basically push the limits. I think the max right now is 8 terabytes, so if that's what you're looking for, I'm not sure this would necessarily be a video editing machine, but at least you have the potential capacity to store everything you need here. So again, Ryzen AI 300 processor. They've got pretty much the full range here. The 8-core Ryzen AI 5 340, all the way up to the pretty powerhousey 12-core Ryzen AI 9 HX370, which is, you know, at the top of the heap as far as the AI 300 is concerned. So again, maybe not a discrete gaming processor in here, but or a discrete gaming GPU, but as far as gaming and AI performance is concerned, probably pretty decent. The other thing to mention, of course, is that again, AI. This has a 50 TOPS NPU, so it allows you to qualify this as a Copilot PC and get all the benefits of such. Pricing. This will ship later this year. It is going to be $899 for the DIY edition, $1099 for a pre-built. Again, that $899 and $1099 are the minimum prices. If you want higher specs, you pay more. What's interesting, of course, is that the predecessors are still being offered. One thing that Framework is doing is it's actually knocking down the price of the older 7040 mainboard, or sorry, 7040 laptop. So if you buy I believe it's a pre-built version of that, you'll pay $749 rather than the higher price Framework originally charged. So again, this is the sort of the mainstream Framework laptop. It's being upgraded for AMD's Ryzen AI 300. Sure, there's questions I wanted to ask Framework employees, and maybe we'll have a chance to. Is a Windows and ARM PC coming down the pipe? Could it be a Snapdragon? I'm not entirely certain. Is Lunar Lake, is Arrow Lake going to be an option as well? Lots of choice to be offered in the laptop market, and this is Framework's sort of modus operandi. So what have we seen here? We've seen upgrades to the Framework Laptop 13 with the Ryzen AI 300 chip inside of it. That gives it long battery life as well as some gaming chops. We've seen a new tweak on the budget PC, the Framework Laptop 12, which we're going to see with a 13th gen core chip inside of it later this year. Pricing remains an issue, so we're not exactly sure if the budget PC means $599, $799, $999. That's going to be sort of a key question for Framework to answer. And of course, there's the Framework desktop. That's the interesting one. So again, Framework has always designed laptops in the style of desktops, modularity, right? Upgradability, serviceability, and so forth. But the PC is already like that, right? You can go ahead and swap out storage. You can swap out the processor. You can swap out pretty much anything you want. So it's going to be interesting to see how, really how Framework competes with you, right? Because you're the one that can go ahead and upgrade these things. And Framework is going to be going ahead and saying, well, yes, we have that option as well. Will the aesthetics appeal to people who are used to building in, say, RGB? We haven't seen that with the Framework desktop. Will we see additional types of processors? Will people demand a discrete GPU? So far, we haven't seen anything that indicates that they're planning to do it inside that small form factor desktop. Will we see a larger desktop? These are all questions for Framework to answer. Hopefully, I think we're going to, in the near future, see those questions answered, maybe over the next couple of months or years as things get launched. But again, Framework launched with a new way of doing things. It continues that promise and continues that premise. And I don't know about you, but I'm excited to see exactly what comes down the pipe.